basketball too, right?
Yeah.
You do soccer.
Yeah. I might have to change the slide. I was screwing up last night. I don't even think nobody knows.
Look, it was so uninteresting, nobody cared. Until the boys started scoring again. Oh, yeah, yeah. Sheriff said he was going to try to come today if he got a chance.
Okay. Yeah. You hear me from there?
Well, I see them up there quite often, and I was reading on Facebook.
Okay.
They arrested somebody yesterday morning up near Lewis Highway 11. Well, Lord, couldn't see him. It was on the news, but I didn't see it on the news. None of these come on.
It was up there.
On television, yeah. I missed that. It didn't say how close, but it said near Lewiston. Well, Highway 11. And the local stuff. Yeah, you ain't lying.
Pop it up a little bit.
Same thing. A bunch of them up there too, there's just some on the boat.
Good morning. Y'all bear with us a little bit longer. Just trying to see who's coming up because the value information is going to be presented, okay? Thank y'all for your
No,
patience.
I'm saying they had to leave it a little bit for Wednesday. Doing fine. Doing fine. He's busy. He's busy. Yeah. What part of road are you in?
I'm in Bowie.
Bowie.
Yeah, I'm in Bowie. I teach
You near
at.
college? Are you near the college?
It's actually, you said middle college?
No, Bowie State.
Yeah, I teach at Bowie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Been there for about 20
There you
years.
go.
Right. How you doing, man? Been there for about 20 years.
So now, where's your home?
Bowie? Maryland?
Why did you go to the show?
I mean, undergrad itself.
Where that is?
I'm originally from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
From Rocky Mount.
Oh, yeah, all right. Right.
The big city is Yonkers.
You played along at the show?
Okay. You ready? Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started then. First of all, good morning, everybody. So glad to see everyone out this morning. We welcome each and every one of you here. We know there's many other things you could be doing, but as our ministry, we felt this was some important information that need to be shared. So it is a little live stream, so hopefully people will watch it maybe at a later date or later on this afternoon, because we know there's a lot of things going on this weekend. But first of all, we want to ask Deacon Norman Cherry to come and give us an opening prayer.
Let us pray. God, we thank you for this opportunity to say thank you, and for your blessings upon us last night as we slumbered and slept, and God awakening us this day to a new day of new opportunities and new possibilities. And now, God, as we gather as men and women to hear those things that we need to be aware of as it relates to our health, we pray, God, that we will open our hearts and our minds and receive this information, and not just receive it, but God, when it's necessary, to do what needs to be done to take care of ourselves. We thank you for the gentlemen who have come to share this information with us, and we pray traveling mercies for him and all of us as we leave this place. And when we leave, we will be better informed again as it relates to health issues in our bodies. And this we ask in your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
And thank you, Deacon Cherry. Okay, we're going to move right along because we got a great speaker coming before us. But before we get started, this is a subject that's close to me because if you didn't know, in 2018, I faced this situation. And anybody that faced it, when you're sitting in the doctor's office, you know, he's saying what he's saying, you know, you listen to the doctor, and he say that one word that starts with a C. You don't hear nothing else after he said. Everything else he said, you don't hear it. Your mind is locked. You're like, oh my God. So when I got mine, I came out of the doctor's office. You know, like I didn't really listen. I got in the car. I sit there for a few minutes just thinking like, now, okay, what am I doing now? And like I said, when I went, I was going doing my regular checkups, you know, every 6 months, you know. I felt fine, didn't feel any different, nothing. He said, well, we think we need to do some more tests on you because your A1C is high. I'm like, okay. So I guess I went in the car, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, what's next? I said, well, first of all, I got to tell my family, my wife, how am I going to do that? So I thought, then I just started praying. I was like, God, however you going to handle this, you going to have to handle it because I don't think I can do it. But to make a long story short, he did handle it. I mean, once I sit there and on the way home, thinking, didn't even turn the music on. You know, I never ride without music, but from Greenville, go all the way home, no music, nothing, just thinking, contemplating. Get home, you know, still don't want to say it, you know, because like I said, it's a hard word to say. I mean, especially when you got to tell somebody. It's a hard word to say. So I finally got to the point where I told my wife and said, okay. So what I did, I told her, I said, what are you going to do? We going back to the doctor. I want you to talk to him so you can get it straight from him, which we did, you know, and she took it as well as she could take it. But like I said, I've never really known no more than what you hear. You know, all the horror stories you hear the words cancer, you think death sentence. I mean, and my doctor, I guess he could look at my face and think that's what I'm thinking. He said, no, Mr. Freeman, Ricky, you're at a good point. We got it, we caught it early. He said, we can take care of you. I said, okay, I'm gonna trust you. So anyway, to make a long story short, went through the process, went through the surgery, went through the after treatment, and this is how good God is, because he arranged it so I could do my chemo 30 minutes from where I worked. I didn't even have to take all work. I go on lunch break, do 10 minutes of chemo, come back to work. And during that whole process, I never stopped. I mean, most people thought I was still doing fine. I mean, because, and like I said, I just put it all in his hands and the doctor's hands. So I tell you this, and I hope people are watching this. Used to, they used to say, go get checked when you get older. I tell people now, young men, especially young men, once you get 30, you need to get checked because our presenter will probably explain more to you, but it's a simple blood test. It's a simple blood test that will determine where you are. And believe me, if you catch it in time and follow what the doctor says and pray, you can make it. Because matter of fact, I just went back on the 9th of this month, and I'm still undetectable. And that's been since 2018. And my level was so high, it scared me because because mine, I said I went from 0, as young folks say, 0 to 100. 6 months, nothing. 6 months later, bam. And I was like, whoa. But like I said, one thing I want people to get out of this is that you're never too young to get checked, and you should get checked. Because I know men, we don't like going to the doctor. I was one of them. Till I got older, I was like, I'm not going to the doctor. I feel fine. But men, you really need to get checked because it's prevalent in our community. I just want to get that out of the way. So hopefully that will help somebody, because that's been my mission since 18. I talk to people, just run into them and talk to them, say, look, especially younger people, I say, hey, had a PSA test? They look at me like, what's that? I'm telling you, when you go to the doctor, ask for one. It's just, like I say, when they take your blood, they do the same sample for everything else. They just do that test, and you get it early enough, you can survive. It's not a death sentence. I mean, it's not a death sentence at all. And with that being said, I bring Brother Norman Cherry Jr. up now to introduce this man that's going to bring us this great information this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Brother Freeman, for that segue. Many of us who walk around Mount Olive in the community have been impacted by this disease. So, and I don't want him to present that today. But I'm gonna tell you, now I'm gonna get to a dynamic speaker for today. Let me do an introduction first. And if you're like me, as the grades come in, the eyesight leaves. So let me put my eyes on. Yes, sir. My speaker for today, our speaker, I'm sorry, is none other than Mr. William Battle, MA. Is an adjunct professor at Bowie State University in the College of Education, Department of Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development. He is a highly driven health educator who over the past decade has engaged students in the philosophical application of knowledge related to various health practices as well as issues that affect today's society. He places a high priority on nutrition, chronic diseases, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and dimensions of wellness. Our speaker today is the president and founder of Emmanuel Health Education, EHE Incorporated, a community-based nonprofit 501c3 that provides an array of health messages for men where they live, work, and worship. Additionally, EHE works diligently in Maryland as well as North Carolina to advocate, educate, to engage community-based participatory research and awareness to eradicate prostate cancer among men of color. Just real quick, I've heard this presenter a couple of years ago, and it's dynamic, okay? And please pay attention, take notes. He's going to have a wealth of knowledge. With that being said, and also he is a member of the greatest fraternity known on this side of heaven. There's a Omega Psi Phi fraternity incorporated.
Absolutely.
Anybody want to say something? We did in the parking lot. But anyway, with that being said, and I want to say this real quick, young lady, thank you for coming as well. I invited a lot of women, and you, as my good friend said, women, you get us to the doctors, okay? Yep. Without further ado, I present to you none other than my very good friend, Mr. William Battle. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, good brother. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is such a pleasure to see you. I am so thankful that God has anointed me to provide this information. I think that the greatest key to combating this prostate cancer is education. I think the more that we're educated, the more that we know about it, that it lessens that hysteria of us going to the doctor and get tested. And yes, ma'am, thank you for being here this morning, because you are the driving force behind us. Okay, I wish there were more ladies here, but you know, you can take this message back to them and tell them what they missed. We would have loved for them to be here because, you know, I was talking with Brother Cherry and we were setting this thing up. I said, well, are women going to be there? Because we need women to be here, and I just believe that women should know her significant other's story when it comes to his health, because it's a family thing and it's an informed decision that you both make when it comes down to a man dealing with this issue. You guys know how we are. Sometimes we don't want to talk about certain things. We'll talk about the cars and the houses and all this other stuff, but we don't want to talk about certain things when it comes to the health stuff. But enough of that already. As Brother Cherry said, I'm Will Battle. I'm at Bowie State University. Been there for about 20 years, teaching the Department of Education. And I get a firsthand, I get to see students on a first-hand basis every semester, and we talk about this stuff and health stuff, whatnot, what have you. But let me share with you a little bit about Emmanuel Health and how we got started, because I mean it just wasn't something that I thought about. I was working on a project at Bowie State University. It was a 5 historical college program. It was Bowie State with Morgan State, Lincoln University. No, Elizabeth City wasn't there. Wilberforce and Morehouse School of Medicine. And we were granted funding through the Office of Minority and Men's Health. We got about $1 million, and we had to split it between each college. So that panned out to be about 120-some thousand apiece. But we were charged with providing education and research in our prospective communities and on our college campuses. So, I was out in the community, and I got wind of the issue of prostate cancer in Prince George's County. Now, Prince George's County, if you don't know, is supposed to be one of the most financially elite, income-based counties for African Americans in the U.S., all right? But we had the highest incidence of mortality of prostate cancer. So what I'm saying is, with all this money floating around, right? With all this knowledge floating around, with all this access to health care, we had the highest incidence of mortality in the state of Maryland. 24 counties in the state of Maryland, and in Prince George's County, with all this knowledge and education, with all this, we had the highest incidence of mortality of prostate cancer. So that kind of consumed me, and I really, really wanted to engage with doing something for men in Prince George's County relative to this prostate cancer. Unfortunately, the project ended in 2013. So I worked on it from about 2007 to 2013. It ended in 2013, and I felt it was such a travesty that the project had ended, and we would no longer be able to get out in the community and to do the education because of money, because of funding, because it does take funding to some degree. So I had gone home, and I was sitting on my bed, and I was having a conversation with God about it. I said, Lord, you know, we did all this work for all these years, for all these people, and now because of funding, we're going to have to cease the work. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I just happened to open up my Bible. And if you know God, you know, you just don't happen to do things. He kind of set things for you. You may not see him. You may not see it at the particular time. But I just opened up the Bible to Matthew, and I was reading in Matthew 1:23, where Jesus was born, and he was named Emmanuel. And interpreted meaning God before us. How little did I know at that particular time that God was revealing to me that this would be my next project, this would be my journey. This is a calling for me. And I feel that I begin to go out in the community and talk to men about prostate cancer. I mean, I would talk to anybody that would open up, that would listen to me. I had frat brothers used to tell me, he said, man, if you say one more thing about prostate cancer, I'm gonna knock you upside your head, man. But that's just how much of a desire. I liken it to like Paul, when the Lord took those scales off his eyes. And he became a radical for Christ. And that's kind of how I see this. This is my great commission. And I'm to go to all the land and educate about prostate cancer. So that's kind of how I see it. And so I thank God for allowing me to be here in Windsor, North Carolina, on this Saturday morning before you having this conversation about prostate cancer. So that's a little bit about Emmanuel, all right? So this is what I want you to today we're going to talk a little bit about prostate cancer. And it's not going to be something that we just say, well, this is the prostate, this is where it's located. We're going to show you that. But we're going to talk more about, like, so how does it get to the prostate? You ever thought about that? How does it make its way? How does cancer make its way to the prostate? All right? Let's talk a little about that. But what I do want you to see what's normal and what's abnormal. So if you look at this slide right here, you see a normal prostate, right? It's a normal prostate. And then you'll see a prostate that's cancerous. You'll see a prostate that is, you won't see my pointer, you won't see but you'll see a bladder as a result of the prostate being enlarged. You can see the urine that's still in the bladder. Can you see that? And then you see these arrows here. The arrows are indicating how the cancer is spreading. Okay? So it's spreading from the prostate. So we know that African American men, we have the highest incidence of mortality of prostate cancer, right?
Can we ask a question right there before we leave? Why is that among African American men?
Well, that's a good question, and I wish I could give you the definite answer. I can't give you a definite answer, but I can say we don't get screened, right? Access to health care, right? We have issues with trust. We have trust issues, we don't go screen. We don't go to the doctor. There's cultural sensitivity issues relative to this. Yeah.
Man up.
Well, I think cultural sensitivity, what I'm saying more so is sometimes doctors, right? Sometimes there's certain doctors that don't understand us culturally, so therefore we don't get the kind of time we need in a doctor's office. All right? It's not all the time, but that's what the research says. Cultural sensitivity, and I wish I had this film. I used to do this film called The Black Walnut. And there was a scene in there where there was this white doctor that was sitting down with this black guy, and the black guy was sharing about what he feels and this sort of thing, and the doctor was kind of rushing him through the exam, you know. So we have a tendency, and this is how it goes. We have a tendency to be able to relate more to someone who looked like us. It's the truth. Let's just get right on down to the real nitty gritty. Well, in that, I can't say it's not, but I'm just simply saying, culturally, we just do. We tend to associate more, and we tend to feel comfortable more sooner with someone that look like us. It's just typically what happens. It does. I mean, if we're going to talk about it, we might as well just be real about it. Yeah. You know? We just have a tendency to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's our environment. That's just who we are. That's just what we were exposed to, how we were developed. That's just how it goes, you know? So when you talk about, well, why do we have such high incidences and such mortality? You know, I mean, I can't really get clinical with that because I don't do the clinical stuff. But I can certainly I have resources to the clinical people that can kind of take it a little further than what I can. I try to keep it as basically simple as possible and to kind of help you understand the kind of basic stuff to help kind of with the educational piece. So this is why I feel that it's important that we kind of have an idea of how does this stuff tend to make its way to the prostate. And we'll talk about that in regard. But what we see here is an African-American guy with a tear in his eye. And what I'm getting at is no man should die from prostate cancer if you're getting screened, if you're catching it early enough. This is 2024, man. There's so many other different types of treatments out there now for prostate cancer than what it used to be. So that tear there represents us. The tear represents, it's a shame that we are dying so much at this when we really shouldn't be. And the unfortunate thing is that we do, because there's a lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. So I want to show you some data. If I can get my pointer to work. Oh, got to point this way. My bad. Yeah. So all around the world, globally, we have the highest incidences of mortality, prostate cancer. Our brothers in the Caribbean, our brothers of African descent, globally, man, and you can read the data. All around the world, we just have the highest incidence of mortality. In other words, we're diagnosed more and we die more than any other male racial group. Any other male racial group. We are more likely to develop this disease earlier in life. We're more likely to develop it early in life, more so than any other racial group. I think a lot of that goes back to because we're not getting ourselves screened, we don't have, for some of those very same things that I just shared with you, access to health care, not getting screened, understanding, knowledge base.
What about diet?
Diet. There's research out there now that talks about certain foods that we eat that can exacerbate, that causes an increase of testosterone. You follow me? Testosterone, I mean, one of the first things they do when you diagnose with prostate cancer, one of the first things the doctors do is give you something to stop testosterone growth, because testosterone has been found to be a feeder, right, for prostate cancer. So they give you this stuff called ADT, and I won't get into ADT, but that is kind of like the first line defense to stop the growth of testosterone, because it's been found to feed the cancer, okay, and in that regard. So they kind of stop so there's certain foods. They say red meats. They say nitrates, and we're gonna talk more about. Well, I'm not saying for you not to eat red meat. I'm not even saying for you not to eat chicken. But we're gonna see how there's certain things out there in the environment, in the foods that we eat, and all that kind of stuff, that when it changes the DNA, when it changes DNA, when it rewrites the DNA, it can turn into a tumor, which can turn into cancer. And I got a slide, I'll show you that, and we'll get that in a little bit. All right? I'm like Brother Cherry. When the gray starts, the eyes get worse, so I got to get a little closer to the slides. New cases and death rates in African American men are likely rooted in some of the things I just said. Poor knowledge, right? Awareness. I just said that. Medical mistrust. All these may affect the access and data collection downstream. In other words, when I do these presentations, I always try to make them privy to the areas that I'm doing. For example, Bertie County. Now, I got some stuff I'm going to show you. I don't want to get before ahead of myself, but what I'm saying is, because of poor knowledge and because of awareness and because of medical mistrust, there's information I could not find on Bertie County. Just say it. I couldn't find it. Huh? Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. I couldn't find it. So we'll see that. Oh, God. Yes, sir.
Do you think maybe that information is not out there because nobody thought it important enough to make it available, or how did we get missed?
It's not that you got you got missed. It's just certain information that I couldn't find on Bertie. There's information that we'll get there. Hold that question until we get there. Okay. Do that for me.
It's probably because there's a lack of people getting screens, so there's no data.
Yeah, I was gonna get there when we got to the screen. I mean, when I got to the slide, I was gonna get there when we got to the slide. If I give you everything down there, then when I get down there, you're gonna already know it. You know what I mean? But very good point. Very good point.
That's a cue too.
What's going on over there? All right. So I put this website up here because I want you to go and check it out, blackdoctor.org. Usually I would put this in my references, but I wanted to put it up here front and center so you could go to this site and you can check it out. But anyway, according to blackdoctor.org, there was a study at the University of Michigan. They looked at over 3,000 patients, and this is what they found. Generally, black men get fewer PSA screenings. You know what he just said?
No data.
You don't get the screenings, then you don't have the data. Right? We are more likely to be diagnosed at a late stage. Right? Again, screening. Right? We're more likely to be diagnosed at a late stage. So guess what happens if they diagnose at a late stage? Guess how they treat it? More aggressively. That's when they start cutting out, cutting up, and all that sort of thing. But that's typically what happens. There's more being said here than just we are more likely to be diagnosed at a later stage. What is not there is saying that when it's diagnosed at a later stage, it has to be treated more aggressively. So if it's treated more aggressively, then that's more of a challenge that you're going through. There's more challenge that the family is going through. It just works its way on down the line there. We are less likely to have health insurance. Yeah. Typical stuff we're dealing with, yeah. Have less access to high quality care and other health issues that can be linked to overall socioeconomic status. It's true. Yeah. Okay, I won't do it this time. No, I'm back. It also said that we have a higher risk for developing and dying from prostate cancer. It says that we are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than white men. It says that we are 2.5 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than white men. It says that we're 1 in 6 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in his lifetime. So how many black men in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if that says 1 in 6, and there's 12 of us in there, how many is that? 2. Right. Yeah. It says black men are slightly more likely than white men to be diagnosed at an advanced stage. We're just not getting screened, man. We're not being on board with understanding how crucial this prostate cancer thing is, or this prostate thing is. And so therefore, we're not getting the treatment. We're not going to the doctor. We're not doing that. And so therefore, when we're not talking about it. We're not sharing about what's going on. So when we're not doing that, guess what? You wouldn't believe how many guys I know that were found to have prostate cancer just by going for a routine checkup. Just by going for a routine checkup. And then they're shocked to know that it's at an advanced stage, right? So here's my thing. So oftentimes the research, the literature will say, well, there's no symptoms for prostate cancer. There are no symptoms. Well, here's what I'm gonna say to you. If you're a man and you've been urinating normally, all of a sudden you're not urinating normally anymore, there's a hesitation, you got a strain, you got a weak stream. I don't know about you, but to me, that's a symptom. That's a symptom. Now, it might not be prostate cancer, it could be BPH, and we're gonna talk about that briefly. But the reality is something is going on enough for you to want to get checked, right? And here's the thing. Oh man, I'm just getting older now. I'm getting old. I'm just getting old now. I'm just aging now. Well, yeah, when we get old, things change. When we get older, things change, which is even more of a reason to get yourself checked. Not just walk around like willy-nilly, like nothing's happening. Because something is probably happening on the inside. If you were urinating normally, and now something's different about the way you urinate, or if you got this back pain that you've never had before and it's consistent, something could be possibly going on. And that is enough for you to get yourself checked. So I left this one up here as well, zerocancer.org. I want you to go there to check that out. Zero.org says every 13 minutes, a black man is diagnosed with prostate cancer. Every day, nearly 17 black men die from prostate cancer. 33, can y'all see this? Do you see these? Okay. 33% of black men 50 or older had a PSA test in 2018 as compared to 37% of white men. If you don't do nothing else, just look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. About 41,000 black men were expected to be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And about 6,000 black men were expected to die from it. This is in 2022. So you think it's gone down? Probably not. COVID came in, what, 2020? 2019. So when COVID came in, nobody was really going to get PSA screenings. Everything was pretty much shut down. I mean, people were lined up in hospitals and dying and whatnot, what have you. So PSA, prostate cancer kind of took a back seat. And then on top of that, I don't know if you ever heard of this organization. It's called the United States Preventive Task Force. The United States Preventive Task Force is an organization that makes decisions about screenings and whatnot. Well, they made a decision to not have to screen because it was based on two studies. One study was done over in Europe and one study was done here in the US. But the study had very little African American representation in there. But they made a decision to not screen black men who have the highest incident and the highest mortality from prostate cancer, and they make a decision not to screen for prostate cancer. Listen, you know what screening is? Screening is just looking for something before it happens. It's just looking for something before it happens. So if you're not getting screened, and then you got the system out there saying, well, the benefit is not worth the harm. But you also got a population of men out there that have the highest incidences of mortality, and you're saying not screen. So what impact do you think that had on men going to get screened? They're saying, well, we don't have to go. No need to do it. I mean, so the unfortunate thing is, so the numbers went up. And I don't care how many times I look at the data, I look at the charts, man. Like one organization will say, well, African American men, they have the highest incidences of mortality, but the numbers have gone down. Well, when you look at the numbers, they may have gone down, but we're still 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed and die from prostate cancer than any other racial group. So the numbers go down, but we still have high numbers. So let's look at how common this thing is. So just look at this. In 2022, you look at the numbers, 248,000. 34,000 were expected to die. 2023, 288,000. 37,000 expected to die. In 2024, 299,000 new cases. So these are new cases. 2022, 268,000 new cases. 2023, 288,000 new cases. 2024, 299,000. Are the numbers going down? Numbers going up. Numbers going up. And there's a bandwagon of things of why these numbers going up. You know, but probably one of the most prevalent is we just start getting screened. So let's do a little biology right quick. All right. So here's the prostate. Here's the prostate right here. All right. It sits beneath the bladder and right in front of the rectum. So two things I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about BPH real quick, then I want to talk about prostate cancer. So you know, BPH is something that when we age, we all, at some point or another, probably going to deal with. If you live long enough, and it don't really matter whether you're black or whether you're white. If you are male and you got a prostate, and if you live long enough, there's a very good chance that you may have an issue with benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is BPH. And basically, it's an enlargement or an infection of the prostate. I got another slide, I'll show you about that shortly. But if you notice, when that prostate inflames or when it enlarges, or if it becomes cancerous, you see how it presses up against the rectum there. The urethra becomes constricted. That's why you have, we're getting up several times a night urinating, because the prostate has enlarged to the degree it constricts the urethra. When it constricts the urethra, the urine doesn't flow out of it as it normally should, so it doesn't empty the bladder. So if it doesn't empty the bladder, guess what? You're getting up several times. Yeah, you're getting up several times to use the bathroom. So I show you this, and I say this to say, it may not be prostate cancer. It could be BPH. But they all have the same type of effect on the prostate, right? If it enlarges, if it's cancerous, if it's infected, it constricts the urethra.
Does the BPH cause your PSA to go up?
It can. Yes, it can. You can have BPH and you can have prostate cancer. You can have them both. So, again, it's important to be getting screened, to be educated about this. Do you know that the only responsibility of the prostate is to provide a milky kind of substance to the male's sperm, so that when it and to protect it, so that when it travels up the vaginal cavity to get to the egg, it has to move in a fast movement, right? Oftentimes, what happens is, and it has to maintain a certain temperature. Oftentimes, when the vaginal cavity is supposed to be allegedly very acidic. If it's acidic, then it can kill off the sperm, all right? So that's what the prostate does. It kind of, well, actually, you see this right here, that's a semivessel. So the fluid comes from there through the prostate. You see the little opening? It comes through there, through the prostate, onto the sperm. It's ejaculated up the vaginal cavity. That helps it swim faster and to protect it and keep it warm so that it doesn't die in transition of the vaginal cavity. You know, so that's really, it's not a whole lot that it does. It is a part of the reproductive system, but that's primarily what it does. And that little thing right there, about the size of a walnut, can cause a lot of problems. It can cause a lot of problems. Hey, my granddad, I guess he was in his 80s. Those guys weren't going to the doctor back then. I don't know what he could have had prostate cancer. I don't know. But they weren't going to the doctor back then. As a matter of fact, I think the doctors were back then were coming to your houses. That was some time ago, but in reality, I don't know. I know I don't have a family history of it. I know I have gotten my examinations when need be, and I've talked to my sons. They're in their 40s now. We have conversations about this all the time. But in terms of family history, I don't know, because he never went to the doctor. Yeah. So the prostate is divided into layers, right? And I wanted to do this to give you a visual of this. It's like an onion. When you peel the onion back, it's different layers. Like, this is probably the bottom anterior portion of it. This is called the peripheral zone. You see the central zone and then the transitional zone. It's like layers. What the researchers find is that most prostate cancer starts in the transitional zone. That's why when they do, where is it? Well, I'll get to that. We'll deal with that when I get there. Let me get back to this. I don't want to get too far. What's going on with me? Okay. So that's why when they typically do the digital rectal exam, and I know most of the guys in here are not really interested in a digital rectal exam. But when they do the digital rectal exam, that's typically what they're touching. That's typically what they're feeling, the transitional zone. Because for some reason, it tends to start to grow in that transitional zone. All right? All right. So, come on. All right. So then what exactly is prostate cancer? Real simple, real basic. As I said earlier, it's just a change in the DNA. It's changing the DNA of a normal cell. There are some genes. DNA is the chemical in our cells that make up our genes, right? Like right here. Oh, man. Okay. So this is a cell, little biology. So this is a cell. The genes are a part of the cell nucleus, okay? The genes are housed in the cell. So what you're seeing right here is DNA, genes that make proteins. If this protein work right, which is a repair protein, right? And we all have that. So if the gene does what it's supposed to do, if the protein does what it's supposed to do, then we're fine. In other words, if something in the environment was to change the DNA in that gene, then we have repair proteins that are supposed to repair it. But if it doesn't repair it, then it continues to produce bad genes. And I'm gonna show you that in a second, okay? If it doesn't repair it, then it continues to produce bad genes. So this is what okay, like right here. Sorry? Okay. So let's look at it right here. You got two normal genes, right? The thing about genes, is that the prostate, the breast, and the brain, they have these fast producing genes, right? Imagine, you remember the old copiers where you would go to the copier, you want to make like 500 copies or something like that. So you would put the paper in there to make the copies, and it would make the copies real fast. But sometimes the machine would get jammed, right? Same process as a gene. We got the copy machine right here making normal genes, right? And again, the brain, the prostate, the breast, they make fast, you know, some genes, just like are supposed to die. I mean, some cells are supposed to die, right? Like the cells that you had 6 months ago are not the same cells that you have now. We all have these fast producing cells all the time. So you're living your life, everything is normal, something happens, it's not repaired. So now it knocks this gene out, so now you got a bad gene, right, and a good gene. And this bad gene, at any time, can turn into a tumor and become cancerous. Keep in mind, the prostate has these fast-producing genes. They produce them all the time. Sometimes they don't die. When they don't die, they continue to multiply, which is what we got right here. They continue to multiply. So you live your life, you go on, but you can function with one good gene and one bad gene. You live your life and you go on, something happens, and then you get another, this gene is knocked out. Now this gene is still producing, but it's producing a bad gene, right? So you live your life, now you get a second gene knocked out, and they don't die. So now you got these bad genes producing bad genes. Eventually, it turns into a tumor. Once the tumor sets in, then it turns cancerous. And that's kind of how it works its way to the prostate. So you got two normal genes functioning, everything's fine. Right? Something goes on, it's not repaired, you got a normal gene functioning, you got a bad gene that's producing bad genes. Right? You go on with life, you get the second gene knocked out, and then you got two genes, two bad genes producing bad genes. And basically that's what cancer is. Cancer is abnormal cell growth. So what you have here is abnormal cell growth that eventually turns into tumors, that eventually turns into cancer. Keep in mind that the prostate produces fast, they produce these genes extremely fast. The prostate, the brain, the breast. And that's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to like breast cancer. It's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to prostate cancer. You got these genes that are being produced fast. Something happens, not repaired. They don't die. They continue to multiply. And that's all cancer is an abnormal cell growth. And that's what we're dealing with prostate cancer. Yes, sir.
Question. So when you go to the doctor nowadays, they tend to ask you this question
Mm-hmm.
about your health as far as your family is related. Your father, your uncle, or your brother. Has anybody in your family ever had cancer?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them may have had that question if they asked for, or anyone had prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying, so is it basically DNA?
A change.
Found in your parents' DNA doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get it, or the risk is highly likely that you will get it.
Well, now we're talking about hereditary,
Exactly. So I mean, is that
which is right here. See, cancer can be sporadic. It can just show up, man. My nephew died from leukemia. Nobody in my family, then, now, has been diagnosed with leukemia. Leukemia is a disease of the blood, right? So he was diagnosed with it when he was like 11, and he died when he was 20. It just sporadic, it just showed up. He was coming home from the basketball court one day, and he just fell out. Took him to the hospital. The doctors in Rocky Mount couldn't diagnose him, so we took him to St. Jude, and he was diagnosed with leukemia. Nobody in my family, his father, my sister, nobody in my family has ever been diagnosed with leukemia. It just sporadically showed up. What you're talking about is right here, hereditary cancer, where you're born already. You're born already with the damaged gene. And all that gene does is continuously produce another bad gene. Right? Again, we know that environment, we know that food, we know that all kinds of things, like for example, how many of you use what's the green thumb stuff? The chemical stuff to treat your lawn? Roundup, okay. Well, whatever company that goes out there and treat the entire lawn, True Green, use some chemicals, right? After they treat your lawn, have you ever smelled that stuff? I mean, environmentally, things have to get in your system somehow, right? So we inhale it. I'm not just saying them, but what I am saying is, just like when we were, man, I want to get ahead of myself. I'll talk about that when I get there, because that's a couple slides down. I don't want you to miss that. But basically what I'm saying is, environmentally, there are things out there that we are exposed to, and some of us are more apt than others to be affected. It could be something that we inhale. It could be something that maybe we eat. Whatever changes, whatever can change the makeup in that DNA, because that's really what prostate cancer is. That's really what cancer is. Something that changes the current makeup of the DNA. It rewrites it to something different. Okay? So it just so happens that the prostate and the breast, they produce those cells extremely fast. With all that reproduction going on, something is about to go wrong. That's why I gave you the example of the copying machine. You could put that thing in there to copy 500 copies. Sometimes it might make 500 copies, no problem. But sometimes it gets jammed in there, and if you don't go in there and unjam it and fix it, then it continues to produce bad copies, which is the same concept of this gene here. If it's damaged by something in the environment, if it's damaged by something that you inhale, if it's damaged by anything that causes that DNA to be rewrote or change the DNA, and it's damaged and it's not repaired, then it continues to produce.
That happens with those of us who grew up in rural eastern North Carolina, right here in Berkeley County, which is predominantly a farming community.
Mm-hmm.
And looking around, I'm probably the oldest one in here. The things we used to do as farmers to make sure crops produced without any deterrents, we don't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To get rid of grass, I used to chop. To get rid of tobacco, worms, we used to pull the worm off the tobacco, John remember. But now, after the farmer plants, the first thing he does is spray some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that spray is designed to kill something. It's got to be.
I'm just saying, it's education, man.
They go out there now and spray to kill the leaves so they can do the cotton.
I'm just saying, it's education, brothers. It's about not walking around with your eyes wide shut. You know what I'm saying? It's about open your eyes, and if you want to know some stuff, why this, why that, why this, just kind of look around, see what we're exposed to, man. Really. What makes you think it's organic? I'm just saying. What makes you think it's organic? Because they put it on the wrapper? Because they say so? You don't know what type of soil they use. You don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Just.
It's only organic unless you grow it yourself and you do it with what you put out there yourself.
Look, this right here goes a long ways.
Oh yeah, it was all the way.
So you don't. So I'm just saying. But I don't want to get too far off. But that's where we are. Cancer can be sporadic. It can just show up. And if something damages that gene by rewriting the DNA and it's not repaired, then it continues to produce a bad gene. Okay? In hereditary, you're born with it. Okay? So you already got a strike one against you because you're born with it. You can live with it, but if something knocks out another one, then yes, it really increases the likelihood. You know, we should have some idea of our family history. We really should. Yeah. So So this is a normal prostate. You see how wide it is? You see the bladder here and the urethra is wide open. That's a normal prostate. But then, remember I told you the transitional zone? Typically, transitional zone. You got that rectum back there. We show you in a second. So when this thing starts to grow, either BPH or the tumor, it constricts the urethra. So it makes that wide opening smaller and smaller. Makes it difficult for the urine to be able to come through the urethra. So we're getting up several times. Can't take long trips unless you stop and use the bathroom. Or you monitor how you drink water so as to avoid all of that. So this is, so what we got here is, now the cancer is there, right? And now there's staging levels that we need to take a look at. Now, I don't know if you can see right here in stage 1, but right here, but there's a little bit of cancer right there, a little white spot in that transitional area. That's called local. It's local because it's still confined to the prostate. Right? It's local because it's still confined to the prostate. Now, you see how we've gone from here, that little spot, you can barely see, and most times, when it's small like that, some urologists will say, well, let's just, you heard the term surveillance, let's just watch it and see what happens. Now we have the highest incidence of mortality, right, of prostate cancer. And we want to sit around and watch something grow. I know several urologists that are so against that. Why would we sit around and watch for something to grow? And we know that in African American men, we have highest incidence, and we have, and then in other words, we diagnose more, we die more. Let's just keep it simple. We diagnose more and we die more than any male racial group on this planet. So why would we sit around and wait? But some urologists have legitimate rationales and some are totally against it. But at any rate, so you see we spread from stage 1 to stage 2. Now, you're starting to see this thing spread from transitional to peripheral. So if it's doing that, then it's consuming more of the prostate, right? It's consuming more of the prostate. Now when it starts to get, now this is like regional. Now it's starting to spread from the prostate to other organs, right? Outside the prostate, to the bladder, to the semivesicles, and then in the stage 4, look at it. Outside, it's all over the place. Yeah. Now it's in your lymph nodes. See the lymph nodes go from green to yellow? That's the cancer spreading. That's the cancer spreading. Most urologists will tell you, you remember how folks used to say, oh yeah, when cancer just spread all over the place. That cancer had already spread. Air had nothing to do with it. Air had nothing to do with it. It had already spread. It was to that degree. It was because somebody wasn't getting themselves checked, somebody wasn't doing something. And prostate cancer can be thought of as, a silent killer because it takes so long. It's a slow, chronic, growing type of disease. And that's why I say, man, if you notice that you're not urinating like you once was, that's enough to get yourself checked out. It may not be. Prayerfully, it's not prostate cancer. But we do know as we age, BPH becomes a part of living. Nothing to be ashamed of. That's just who we are. That's just who we are as men. We just designed that way. So as you age, that stuff happens. So you see, we've gone from regional, we've gone from local to regional to distal. It's all over the place. Spreading. And if we're not getting ourselves checked, if we're not educating ourselves to what we're dealing with, listen, we get this stuff, it would be perfect to catch it right here. But when we let it get here and here, man, we've given this stuff a heck of a head start on us. And it's a whole lot more difficult to treat when it's here than over here. This is basically getting screen, catching it early. It's like from this side of that wall to that side of the wall, your treatment opportunities here. But once it starts getting here and here, it's like the walls are closing. Because your treatment goes from here, this much treatment, and it narrows down to that much treatment. So you have what? Less options. You have less options. I thought I was doing the right thing. Stop though. Okay, there we go. There we go. So, this is just a distribution. So from 2015 to 2019, 71% of prostate cancer cases were here in the local area, right? In the localized area. In that same year, 14%. So the numbers decrease. In that same year, 14% were right here in the regional area. And so on and so on. 8% were in the distal area. This is good. That's a big piece of the pie. So what does that say? Somebody's getting screened. If somebody's getting screened early, if 71% of the screenings were localized, then somebody was getting screened early. What is it saying? And then, of course, in the distal category, the distal piece of pie, of course, we had guys that weren't getting screened later, whatnot, and so indicates this, indicative. So if you're getting screened, so overall, 96% of men that got screened, 96.9% of them, nearly 97% were still living 5 years later. Because there's a 5-year survival rate if you're getting yourself screened early. And that's a good thing, right? But what else do you notice about the chart? So if you get screened early and it's localized, you have basically a 100% of survival rate, 5 years. But check this out. Look at what happens when it goes regional. What happened to your numbers? Numbers are going down, right? And what about distal? Numbers are going down. Remember the window? It closes up. If you're getting screened early, you got this much opportunity in terms of getting all the treatments out there. But when that window closes, you have less opportunities and they have to start treating it more aggressively. Because now it's gone from the prostate to other areas of the body. And it's just so unfortunate, again, when no man should be dying from prostate cancer if you're getting yourself screened early. That's pretty much the same chart. So this is what I wanted to show you about BPH. You notice a normal prostate. You got the urine flowing out. You see the arrows. The urine is flowing out of there. No problem. But when the prostate becomes inflamed, you see the arrows coming out, but it's going back up. That's because the openings are starting to close and the urine is not flowing out. Totally. It's flowing out, but it's not emptying the bladder. So you see an arrow coming out, but then you see an arrow going back. That is the effect of BPH. Either it's inflamed or it's enlarged. In this one, you see the urine's not even coming out at all because the urethra is totally closed. So therefore, you're not getting any urine coming out of there at all. So here's the thing about BPH. If we don't get on board with it, and you're not relinquishing that urine out of the bladder, this can cause kidney problems. This backs up and it causes kidney problems. So now we go from BPH that we left unattended to a likelihood of having kidney issues. And then check this out. You know how closely related everything is in the body, right? So if something seriously goes wrong with one organ, what do you think happens to the next one that's connected to it? It's going to affect it. So, you know, one little thing can affect several things inside of you. So, you know, you're being treated for multiple things. When if you just take care of one simple thing to avoid impacting the entire body. In Bertie County, let's look at Bertie County. Now, I know there's not 100,000 men here. But this is what the research does. They kind of base it on this. They use this number for statistical purposes. But in Bertie County, in 2017 and 2021, there were 97 new cases of prostate cancer. This is what the data says. This is data that I get from CDC, Center for Disease Control. And this time frame, it says there were 97 new cases. In other words, there were 97 men that were diagnosed with prostate cancer. It says 135 men cases were reported. And that went back to what you said earlier, just not reporting. In 2018, 2022, 18 men died from prostate cancer in Bertie County. In 2018, 2022, 18 men died of prostate cancer. For every 100,000 men in Bertie County, 27 died.
If you had to speculate, for those 97 cases, what number would you think would have been African American? I know you can't have any direct, but based on the prevalence of African American versus non, if there were 97 total, what do you think may have been black?
Could have been all of them. If they got screened, though.
Yeah.
They could have been all Caucasian. If you know.
That's screening, okay.
If you get screened. Because if you're not getting screened, it's not being reported.
Not in the numbers, right?
Yeah, it's not in the numbers. You can't put it there if it's not there. You know. So, top 10 cancers by number of new cases in North Carolina, all races, you'll see that, now this is North Carolina, the entire state. All right, top 10, well, we're gonna focus on prostate cancer. 8,650, top 10 cancers. So of the top cancers in North Carolina, prostate cancer is number one. It's number one. Prostate cancer is number one. Check this out. The top 10 cancers by deaths in North Carolina. Prostate cancer is number two. Lung cancer.
Was that number one in North Carolina just males or all?
No, it's all men. All males.
Men.
Prostate cancer. Prostate cancer. We're the only ones that got a prostate. Rate of new cancers, all races, ethnicities, male prostate, Bertie County. So what we're saying here is all races, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, we got down here in prostate cancer. The rate is 134.5 per 100,000 men. Again, we know there's not 100,000 men in Bertie, but they use this again just to show data. Now check this out. Rate of new cancers by race, ethnicity, male prostate, 2017 per 100,000, Bertie County. Look at the disparity here. White non-Hispanic, 69.4. Black non-Hispanic, 182.6. That's double. That's double the amount. This is just in little Bertie County. Somebody was getting screened somewhere, but this is like 4 years though. This is over 4 years. This is not just like last year, 2023. This is over a 4-year period. But that's still substantially high. That goes back to what I said earlier. We are 2.5 more times likely to be diagnosed and to die than any other male racial group. And that's what the number is saying right there. That's what it's saying. Now, this is important because that goes back to what's not happening. They don't have the data, so they can't show the data. If you don't have it, can't show it. I just want you to be aware of what's going on in your area. And no matter how we slice this, it all goes back to being educated, getting your screening, having the conversations, having the conversations with your significant other about this issue of prostate cancer. This is something else I wanted to show you. So there's a report that I got about Bertie. It says in Bertie County, the rate of new prostate cancer is 120 per 100,000 men. Because we know we don't have 100,000 men here, but they still use that just to justify statistics. But here's the good thing, though. It's lower than what the state rate is. The state rate is 124. It says in Bertie County it's 120. So that's good, right? That's good. In Bertie County, and it goes back to my chart where there was nothing there are currently too few cases reported to calculate overall prostate cancer death rate. So there's not enough reported in Bertie County. Again, I mean, if it's not there, it's not there. So they can't report it if you don't have it.
If you don't get screened or tested.
Right.
If you don't have the numbers.
So the state average, and it's probably more, the state average is currently 20 deaths per 100,000. It's probably more deaths. But here's the thing. Some guy, it's so slow growing, there's a good chance you might die from something else. It could be heart attack, could be stroke. It could be some other health disparity. But there's a chance you could die from something else and have prostate cancer. You may not know it, but there's a greater percentage that die with prostate cancer than from prostate cancer because it's such a slow growing disease. And for our veterans, how many military? Okay. For veterans, well, nearly 500,000 prostate cancer patients are in the VA system. Man, that's a lot. Nearly 500,000. 16,000 of these patients have metastatic prostate cancer. In other words, it has spread. 16,000. 9 million veterans receive health care from VA. Military personnel are twice as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than the general public. Check that out.
So
Military personnel is twice as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than the general public, than people out here just living. Military personnel, military people. So why do you think so?
Exposed to a whole lot of stuff.
Say it again. Say it again.
Military exposed to a whole lot of stuff.
Say it again.
And the other thing is, in my opinion, military people, I think, check more often because of where they are.
Yeah, well,
versus the normal citizen. If you're in the army, understand,
Yeah.
say go get a physical.
well, if you in any branch, if you in any branch,
Any brand. But whereas the general public, that's
Right.
it's up to me to go.
yeah. Well, if you in any branch of the military, yo, you going to the doctor. You going even if you get out, you gonna leave like you went in, going through the doctor.
They're automatically gonna be.
Oh, you going to the doctor. You gonna go. Prostate cancer is the most common diagnosed cancer among U.S. veterans, and 30% of new cases diagnosed are in the VA. But I want you to look at this. Check that out. Check that out. If you were in Vietnam, or if you had a grandfather in Vietnam, or if whoever was in Vietnam, in certain areas of Vietnam, Agent Orange was used to defoliate the jungles to keep the American soldiers from being surprise attacked by the Vietnam, right?
That's right.
So they used Agent Orange to defoliate the jungles. They stored it by where you lived. It got in the water supply. It got in the food supply. So if you went to Vietnam having no cancer at all, if you were staying in these areas, there's a great chance you came back from being exposed to this. And obviously so, because the VA has now deemed Agent Orange to be cancer causing to Vietnam veterans. They fought it for a long time now. They fought it for a long time. But they finally approved veterans that were exposed, that was in these areas exposed to Agent Orange. They finally decided to pay them. They fought it for a long time. I think they were kind of waiting for somebody to die off. But they finally decided to pay. So now you can file for compensation through the VA for Agent Orange. But check this out though. You remember earlier when I mentioned to you about some of the lawn care stuff? Some of those chemicals? I'm not gonna call any company's name out, but some of those same chemicals that were used, that was created by chemical companies here in the US. Do the research. It's all out there. Do the research. Some of those same kind of chemicals are in the lawn care stuff. Maybe not to the degree that it was used back then, but the reality is, if there's something in the environment that changes the DNA that you inhale, either it was sprayed to kill something, either it was in the atmosphere, or if you sprayed it and it ran off in the water supply. I'm just saying, look at this and just think about what you've been exposed to, and you ask me why a black man so prone to prostate cancer. I'm not saying it's this, but I'm just saying it's knowledge, man. And that stuff was sprayed to keep the U.S. soldiers from being surprise attacked. It got in the water supply. It got in the food supply. It was housed by where you lived. I remember I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, and I was working on the, I was on an aircraft carrier before that. Lord knows, if you ever been on an aircraft carrier, when they got those jets raising those engines up, what is the first thing you smell is that what, JP-10 or JP-5, whatever it is. You smell it, and you are doing a cruise, and you're gonna be out there with it for at least 6 months. You'll be out there with it for at least 6 months before you come back in. You know, so I'm just saying, and they also had what is that stuff they went around and they changed in the buildings? and you get mesothelioma from it. Mesothelioma? Asbestos. Back then they had asbestos on those ships, man. Yeah. So I'm just saying, when you look at the numbers about military personnel and how they are diagnosed, most of them in the general public, you really got to stop and think about, man, what have you been exposed to?
In addition to Vietnam, now they're saying even in Korea, the same thing because they use Agent Orange over there. So now if you were stationed in Korea, you got the after effects from it.
Hey.
See, they just decided
Right.
within the last 6 to 8 months.
So listen to this. Let me throw this one at you. So what if you went to Vietnam or wherever and you did not have cancer? But as a male, you were exposed to it and it changed the DNA. And as a result of changing the DNA, the cancer continued to grow, and we know that the fast-producing prostate and the breast, we know all about that. And you come back and you have a son or a daughter. Now we're talking hereditary. Now we're talking something being passed down, right? Now we're talking an offspring that may be born with a bad gene. Thank you, sir. I'm telling you, man, we just got to think about what we expose. We got to think about this stuff. This is real talk. This is real talk. Now, these brothers that were exposed to that, if they're not already dead, they're struggling with something. You know, they're struggling with something, man.
You know, I thought about that.
Look at this.
You talk about H4. and it was used also to kill vegetation.
Yeah.
So you could see those people that were hiding. And we used it to kill grass. Same stuff.
I ain't want to gossip, and you ain't heard it from me.
But hey, I'm guilty of it.
I'm just saying.
I have used Roundup,
What's it do?
kill grass.
Make that driveway look
Same
nice,
stuff
don't it?
that was used in Vietnam to kill vegetation.
I'm just saying, man. I ain't want to gossip. You ain't heard it from me.
That
You
ain't
know.
gossip, that's fact.
You spray it, then it rains.
But I didn't think about it in that perspective.
You spray it, and then it rains. Where's it go?
In the water.
I mean, I'm just saying, man. I don't know nothing. I'm just here to share a little something. Yes, your brother.
Sir, in my business, I use Roundup, for a lot. And I had to learn over the years that I use a military-grade mask and to make sure you got a long pass, especially sometimes you got it's hot, when you spray it, there's a little chemical in your body. And one day somebody got on my hand, I was like, why my hand feels so bad? You know, I was see on TV, you know, and I said, man, I read up, I said, man, this stuff is like extremely dangerous. And then we use it to do what it's supposed to do around buildings and commercial properties. It works. But what it does for us, the users, as we get older, we keep using it. That ain't knowing, I got a lot of older guys in my military community where I've seen extreme sick.
Mhm.
And I stood at a lot of funerals, but it was boys from back in the days from Vietnam, and every one of them came from they got some kind of effect.
Yeah, man.
100%.
Yeah, man. I'm just trying to bring you something, man. I'm gonna share this with you, and I'm gonna roll out. I'm going on back to Maryland. I'm gonna drop this off, brother Cherry. I'm gonna drop it off. I'm gonna work my way over 95 and go on back, man. I'm just saying, if you want to kind of understand some stuff, just open your eyes up, look around you, because it's there. You just gotta see it, because sometimes we can kind of get caught up into whatever, and it's right there. That Roundup, spray it. What do they say to you when you go into the grocery store and you get the fruit and all that kind of stuff? I'm just saying, man. I don't mean for you to not go get you some apples and some oranges. I'm just saying, you know, look around. If you want to know why we, you know, I could never figure out why I went bald so quick. And I I just refuse to believe that it's that, because my daddy wasn't bald. I mean, he had a thing there, but he still had some hair. I got 3 brothers, and we're all bald-headed. And I just refuse to believe that that's biological. I just refuse to believe. You know what I'm saying? You know, it don't make any difference now. It's all gone. But I would love to be like you, though, even if it was gray. A head full of hair. My daughter told me one time, she was like, dang, Dad, you got a donut head. That's where it started all up there. Then it just worked its way around. So, but I don't know, man. I don't know. But check this one out. Look at that. Check that one out. If you don't think that somebody is not inhaling this stuff, I just don't know what you're thinking about. If you don't think this stuff, and only God in heaven knows what's in it other than something to kill, if you don't think that and because you're standing over here and it seems to be way over there, oh, you still smell it. And it burned for days and days and days. So if you don't think being exposed to that is having some type of long-term implication, some type of effect, I really don't know what you're thinking about. I really don't. Yeah. Have you seen the research about aluminum foil? That it's carcinogenic? In other words, cancer causing? Yeah, have you read that? I'm just saying. Yeah. So I'm just trying to drop a nugget and then I'm out of here, man. That's all. I'm just saying. So those last 2 slides, I just kind of wanted you to get some heads up in terms of, you know, what could be rationale or answers to generational stuff like Vietnam brothers in Vietnam, and what they were exposed to, Agent Orange. Man, there's a reason why. Listen, if the VA researched this stuff, and if they saw that it caused prostate cancer, and if they are now compensating you for it, something happened. They paying you. They like, well, they're like, well, we know you were in Vietnam, and we know you can barely make it now because you were exposed to Agent Orange, but we're gonna pay you. Probably ain't gonna live much longer, but we're gonna pay you for your services. I'm just so prone to walking around with my eyes open now as opposed to what I used to be when they were shut. Kind of see things for what they are now. When you want those kind of answers, why this and why we this and why we that? We do know that there's certain things that change the DNA makeup. We do know that. We do know that it can promote cell growth. We do know that. We do know that when the cell growth continues, it's supposed to die. We do know that it causes cancer. We know that. But what are those things that we are exposed to that does that? And that's why we need to get, it can be just some ordinary stuff in the neighborhood. You remember, I remember when I grew up in Rocky Mountain, we lived in the projects, man. That Texas stuff used to tear my nose, that pine soil stuff used to tear my nose up. And my mama had us in there cleaning that stuff over and over and over. Anytime you go to a store and you look up there and it's got a skull and bones crossed on it, you need to put that down. Really. I mean, anytime, you know, You use something to clean something, and you got to put gloves on. The first thing it tells you, make sure it don't touch your skin. Come on, y'all. I mean, it might do the job. It might be a twofold job. It might do a job to you and then do a job to what it's supposed to be cleaning. But the reality is, I'm just saying. Yeah, if you didn't want me to say it, Brother Chairman, you shouldn't have invited me down here. So what are some of the signs and symptoms of prostate cancer? Well, it says prostate cancers are found early. But in more advanced cancers, you're going to start having some type of, such as problem urinating. We talked about that, right? Problem urinating, slow leak, weak urinary stream, or a need to urinate more often, especially at night. If you see blood in your urine, if you see blood in your urine, that's not the time to want to go out to dinner. That's the time to go to the doctor. Because if you, first of all, if you see blood in your urine, something has already taken effect. You follow me? It ain't starting. It's already there. It started some time ago in order to get to the blood coming out. So if you see blood in your urine, that's a sign as big as this church. It's time for you to go, or beyond time for you to go. Trouble having an erection. You guys know how you are. We think that we're going to be in our 20s and our 30s all our life. But this stuff impacts you to the degree that you can't function sexually, and that's a problem. And here's another thing, because no man wants to have, that's probably one of the reasons why we don't talk about it when it comes to certain aspects. We don't talk about it enough, because if it affects you ED-wise, you're not so prone to want to sit down with another man and talk about you having those kind of issues. You're not. Just keep it to ourselves. Don't say anything while that thing is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And we don't talk about it. Pain in your hips, in your chest, or even in your bone. Weakness in your legs, your feet, loss of bladder control, or the cancer has gotten so bad until it's pressing up against your spinal cord. That's deep right there, y'all. That's a late stage diagnosis right there. If it's pressing up against your spinal cord, then you know you can best believe, trust and believe that it has spread it. Yes, everywhere. So the thing here is, and you've heard me say over and over and over and over, screening for prostate cancer, man. To be honest with you, our greatest defense, man, our greatest defense is offense. In this case, screening. That's our greatest defense against this stuff. If you're not getting screened to eliminate what could possibly be happening, you kind of take yourself off that field of play, really. You don't give yourself any defense at all if you're not getting screened. You give this stuff, it's kind of like the New York Giants be beating up on the Redskins. You know what I mean? They beat them all the time, Brother Cherry. They beat them all the time, Brother Cherry. Matter of fact, we got so many wins over the Redskins, we could loan you some. So, I know that's why I'm messing with. But it's kind of like if you don't put up some type of defense, which is screening, you kind of take away all your chances. kind of take away our opportunities, because screening gives you an opportunity to be able to look for something before it happens. And especially if you have a family history, you should be getting screened. I mean, we really shouldn't take this thing lightly, because there's nothing to play with. There are two gold standards for screening. There's a PSA and there's a digital rectal exam. And we'll get to that shortly, but according to the American Cancer Society, if you are 45 years old and first generation, like your grandfather, your uncles, your brothers, or what have you, then you're at high risk, at least high risk. If you have the same scenario, you should be getting yourself screened around 40. And here's the thing. There's research out there that's saying they're starting to see prostate cancer in men as young as 15 years old. This is a study I read this article, and I think it was NIH or whatnot. I wish I had the article. But it was saying that they're starting to see it in younger men as young as 15 years old. And I talked with a urologist, a good friend of mine, that was sharing with me that they're starting to see this stuff in younger men now.
Why that is? Think about Desert Storm. How old are those children or those parents that was in Desert Storm?
Yeah.
People that were at 18.
Yeah.
And did 5
Yeah,
years
could
in
be.
the storm. Now their
Could
children
very
are
well be.
15 years old.
Yeah, could very well be. Yeah. But take an opportunity and research and read up on this, because it's out there. Age 40 for men, so age 45 for men who are at average risk, age 40 for men who are at high risk. High risk is, like I said, a grandfather, a father, uncle, something like that. There's a family history. So same thing. First degree relative who had prostate cancer at an early age, same thing. So as I said, there are two gold standards that and oftentimes there can be some issues with the PSA exam because they talk about the sensitivity. Is it really measuring what it should be? But currently, it is one of the two gold standards of testing. That's where they go in there, draw the blood out. They draw the blood. Typically, a normal PSA will be anywhere from 0 to 4. Anything beyond that, keep in mind that, we age. So as we age, you're probably going to have a higher number of PSA. You probably won't have a PSA, say like a younger person may be, but as we get older, we age, things change. And so the numbers can be, a little higher, but once you start getting up into like your 10s and your 20s and your 30s, and I know one guy, he was 398 PSA. I wish he were here to tell his story, but the blessing is, and as I said earlier, the treatments have gotten so much better. There's a treatment out there now, and I really won't get into that, but there's a treatment out there now. It's called Provenge that's showing some very, very promising results for African American men. It is one of those treatments out there that people don't really know a lot about, but that's the program we did over at the other church, at Powersville.
Right.
Yeah, that's the program. And keep in mind, Brother Cherry, I would love to come back and bring that program, okay? Because that talks specifically about a medication out there for men that are at advanced stage prostate cancer. Trust me, treatment today is so much better than what it used to be for prostate cancer. It is so much better. But the ticket to that is we gotta get in and get screened early. Yeah, brother.
So when you mentioned about the numbers itself, the normal rating, you said this gentleman had 398.
398, yeah.
So what's the highest you ever seen?
All around 1,000.
So at that point, what stage are you at possibly?
Don't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
Just 4.
Right, late stage. But here's the thing, though. There's medications out there. There's treatments out there now. I'm telling you, man, there's this treatment out here now called Provenge. This stuff, it's got to be a wonder drug. Because my man that was diagnosed at 398, he took this medication 13 years ago. And he still, the Lord has blessed him to still be here. Provenge, P-R-O, absolutely. P-R-O-V-E-N-G-E, Provenge. Provenge. Check it out. The name of the company is called Dendreon, D-E-N-D-R-E-O-N. Yeah, that's the program of the church. Yeah. Check it out. So yeah, brother, when you get up into that, stage, man, 1,000 and 300 and 1,000. I mean, this guy, he was stage 4, and he said he took a MRI and said his bones lit up like a Christmas tree. You guys were there when he came. You remember him? Yeah, you remember his story, and he's still here with us, man. As a matter of fact, we did about maybe 15 programs all over the U.S. last year. We're going to do probably another 15, 20 this year, and we're hoping to get back down this area to bring that program, no doubt. So we need to talk so I can because right now we're in the midst of scheduling events, so we need to get you on the calendar early, all right? Okay, no problem. So we're going to take a little blood, and here's probably the most dreaded one, that digital rectal exam. Yeah, boy, the brothers don't like assuming the position. They're not down with that one. Brothers will do anything in the world try to avoid this right here.
I've had it.
You had, yeah.
Because this was some of the first methods that were used to determine if it was swollen. I won't say the first, but that's the first one I used.
Well, do what now? No, you have to that's a totally different exam.
Yeah.
But with this right here, I know it looks familiar to quite a few of you. But this is what I want you to see. This is what I want you to see. You remember we talked about the prostate and we talked about the transitional zone. Remember that? This is what they're looking for. This is that transitional zone right there. That's what they're feeling for. That's typically what we're starting to see it develop in those areas. So that's what they're looking for when they ask you to assume the position, put on that glove, hold that table, and voila, that's what they're looking for to touch and see. The prostate should be like a spongy type of organ, but if it's kind of a rigid, hard organ, then those are grounds for the urologist to take it to another level. Right. Those are grounds for him to go there. That's the biopsy. Oh yeah. The biopsy is the process where the urologist will use an instrument to take 12, 15 pieces of tissue from the prostate. They'll send it out to a pathologist. He will look at it and he will give it a number, right? He will give it, typically they don't, because it's from 1 to 5, but typically they don't use the number one and number 2 grading because it is so closely together. What they do is look at what's more widespread, starting with 3. So it could be, they'll take one number, take a piece, and they'll add the 2 pieces together, whichever one is spreading more aggressively, and they'll add and give it a number. It could be a 3 plus 4, 4 plus 3, whatever the combination is, whatever is growing more aggressively. Yeah. But that determines your treatment. When they come up with those Gleason score numbers, that's what determines your treatment. That's kind of how they determine how they start doing your treatments and that kind of thing. All right? So it just depends on what the pathologists see and that kind of thing. Okay? But you can rest assured the higher the two added numbers is probably going to tell you how aggressive the cancer is spreading. And that'll determine how they kind of put your treatment platform together. Yeah. So what can we do? We can know your risk factors. We know where we are in terms of race, your family history, you know in terms of aging, diet, gene changes, chemicals. We talked about that. All those kind of things that we're exposed to that can have the impact. Get tested, get screened, talk to your doctor, maintain a healthy lifestyle, and spread the word. Talk about it. Spread the word about getting your screen. Ask your partner, hey man, have you had your PSA? Have you got yourself checked? And then of course, my last slide here. I don't get into the treatment, but I have resources to, if any of you want to speak with a urologist, ask any questions. I have a very good friend of mine. Typically, I was really trying to set it up. We can get her in here virtually so she could answer any of your questions, but she had a conference she had to attend to today, so she's not available. But question?
You talked about, at the end, you said spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
I personally invited 10 males
Mm-hmm.
who are not members of the church, members who knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them showed up. If you all remember when COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
it scared the heck out of everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody was running to find out or to do whatever I need to do to make sure I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
How do we, for lack of a better term, get that same fear in men to at least go hear what's going on? Why are we not as afraid of this as we were of COVID?
I wish I could answer that question.
Everybody ran
Man.
with COVID hit. Everybody.
Well,
And even now, I still get my shots.
COVID was more exposed nationally on TV, so we watched, we was inundated with it so much. And this here, unless we come to something like this, we don't hear about it.
But when I tell a brother, now I'm 5. I looked at my cousin over there, not a member,
mm-hmm.
that showed up today.
Right. That's $1 million question. In fact, if I had to answer to that question, I would be flying back to Maryland on my private jet. If I could answer that question, because I would be a millionaire. But I think we have to. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We don't really pay. It doesn't become an issue until it's in our backyard.
That's what I was getting ready. Yeah, that was
You know.
a lot of us thinking it would
Yeah. Yeah. We really don't pay any attention until it's either us or someone close to you that, I remember years ago, I worked as a paramedic, and a friend of mine, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. Oh God, Tony had to be maybe his mid-20s or 30s. And he was diagnosed with colon cancer. And they had to cut, basically, they cut enough of his esophagus, his stomach, that he had to wear a colostomy bag. And I saw the challenges that he went through as a result of that, and that was my key to action. So sometimes we have to see stuff, sometimes, until he was real close to me. Sometimes, when it's in your backyard, that can be your keys to action, that can motivate you, whatnot, what have you.
But it wasn't necessarily in your backyard, it scared the heck out of everybody.
What, COVID? Well, the thing about COVID, man, you get COVID and you're gone.
Then it was new.
Well, you could get it and you're gone.
Yeah.
Prostate cancer is a slow growing kind of thing. And like he said, oh man, that's not really a priority. It's not really a priority getting your health check. It's not really a priority. But COVID was in your face and you're gone. And that was a scare about it, yeah. Now here's what I want you to think about. I see pink ribbons everywhere. Baseball, football, basketball. They running, they doing this. I even, like I leave Maryland, I ride down 301. I see pink ribbons all on the car dealership windows. Can't get a ribbon like this. I've never seen any football, basketball. I have seen, Alonzo Mourning. And what's the brother that played for Detroit, the basketball? His dad played football for the Cowboys. Y'all too for that. You will remember him anyway. Grant Hill. Yeah. I have seen him talking about it. I don't know if his dad passed from it or whatnot, what have you. But I have seen him talking about prostate cancer. I haven't seen Alonzo Mourning. I've just read about he had it. And of course, we lost Dexter King to it. Lloyd Austin, yeah, he was diagnosed with it. But I still don't see, and Lord knows I'm trying, I would love to connect with that commissioner of the NFL and have a conversation about having the guys wear something of this nature. I mean, the closest you get to something this color is the Carolina Panthers and their colors. And you don't want to really watch them anyway. Yeah, so I just think that we got to keep doing stuff like this, man.
I think one thing about COVID is COVID didn't know gender nor race. Everybody. But with this, African American male, that slimmed down the number of people that are concerned quite a bit, man.
Well, there's a lot behind that statement there. Yeah, there's a lot. There's I mean, you have to think about the system. And I mean, politically, you have to think about like who's behind the message, who's the messenger, and all that stuff, man. Yeah, so I mean, but anyway, Dr. Denise Gooch, if you're interested, and this is it. Real men don't fear the finger, so don't fear the digital rectal exam, brother. There's a purpose in that. We
That used to be one of the reasons why men didn't go.
Well, that's the goal, but believe it or not,
I mean, that was one of the
yeah,
reasons why
men don't go because they.
I tell a guy now, you can do blood work. You don't, if that's an issue,
Yeah.
at least draw your blood.
And most urologists are going to recommend this in tandem. They're going to recommend you do the blood test. They're going to recommend you do the DRE. They say that, urologists say, and I have a friend of mine I grew up with, he's a urologist. He said the digital rectal exam is their first introduction to the prostate for them. For them. You can do the blood test, but the challenge with the blood test is over the years, they've had issues with the sensitivity of it. In other words, is it measuring what it should be measuring? And if it's not, then you could very well have like a false positive. You can have a false positive, you can have something come out and say you got prostate cancer when you don't. But you get a different type of perspective when you're able to touch the prostate. You can feel the prostate. You can tell if it's hard, rigid, whatnot. You can tell that. And then you can do other matters. You can do MRI, you can do sonograms, you can do all that kind of stuff. But the PSA and the digital rectal exam are the gold standard testing procedures. And so therefore, that's what we're dealing with. Now, there are other things out there on the horizon. I think the urine test is out there now and something else. But until they are tested and proven to be effective over and over and over again, you probably won't see them. And these are considered to be like the gold standard tests. So this is what we are kind of dealing with. So my closure to you is, if you have not been tested, please get tested. I have vouchers for you. If you are interested in getting an exam, you have 12 months to go to any LabCorp and get the exam. It's totally free, won't cost you anything. That's on me. We pay for the test. And so if you take the exam, they'll send you a copy, and that kind of thing. One thing I do want to kind of clear up, I heard Brother Freeman say earlier that he mentioned A1C in the same breath with PSA, which is a totally different kind of exam. A1C is primarily a glucose check to give you some indication of where you are with your sugar and whatnot, what have you. So we don't want to get those two mixed up. And he also said that everybody should get it. Well, everybody should get it, but when you are, no, he said, how did he say it? anyway, it gives you the indication that you should do it when you're younger. But first of all, if you're younger than the age group, they probably won't do the exam because it's extremely rare in anyone in the age of like 40, 45. But however, we are starting to see it in younger men, but they probably won't give it in younger men until there's really some significant reason, or they are starting to see it more and more and more in a younger age group, and then the procedure will probably become more available at that age group. I don't know.
How often should you get checked? Is it every 6 months or once a year?
I'd say once a year. If you are first generation, like your grandfather, your father, your uncles, whatnot, what have you, your doctor may want you to get checked maybe more frequently than a year. Some do, yeah. But here's the thing about this. So it's such a slow-growing disease, but your family history tells a lot. Like if your granddad and your uncles and all that kind of stuff, your doctors are probably, good urologists are probably going to want to keep a close look on this stuff. And, you know, they may want to test you more frequently. You know, the watchful waiting thing, some urologists are not in favor of that, simply because, you know, as African-American men, we have the highest incidences of mortality. So they're pleading for you to get screened. I think the last one I had maybe 2 years ago, and then she said I wouldn't need another one for 5 years, you know. So it kind of depends. It just really kind of depends, yeah. But ordinarily, annually, and then again, if you're 40 and you have the high likelihood, you know, like I said, granddad, pop, whatnot, what have you, then they probably would want to see you more frequently than 5 years. I'm sure they would, but for the most part, that age group, yeah. All right, fellas, ladies and gents, that's it. I'm done. Mm-hmm.
And of course, there are a few downstairs. They're listening because we got
Okay.
technology down there. But I think I see 3.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for coming. I really appreciate that you're here. You have such a vital role to play in our lives. And forgive us, because sometimes, you know, we can be bullheaded. We don't mean to be that way. We're just, to some degree, born that way. And when you don't think that we are not listening, we're listening. We just try to play that little male role that we're not, but we're listening. But thank you for being here, because you speak volumes in terms of supporting the significant other or loved one with this issue. Thank you.
Would we please give my good friend
All right, good brother.
a good hand?
Absolutely. Thank you, good brother. Thank you, man.
I was sitting in the back and I thought, I got to get back up there and say a little something. I got so immersed in the presentation. Thank you so much, my good friend, for, y'all heard he traveled around the world. I'm not going to recap what he said, but all I want to say is this. We had a lot of information. And in the beginning, Brown could tell you, I was talking to my mom and wife downstairs, and I was like, man, we don't have a lot of people. But then I thought about a firecracker, right? The wick of a firecracker is very small, isn't it? But think about the impact when that firecracker explodes. So I want each and every one of you, I saw some good stuff. I saw some political figures here. I saw the pastor here taking notes, and political figures taking pictures. So all I ask you to do is use your platform to spread things, spread the message. So let me do some thank yous before I bring my good friend up, Reverend Ray. First of all, we want to thank God for his presence, right? Because we didn't thank him for being here. He beat us here. I'd like to thank my wife downstairs and my mom. Y'all make sure when you go down there and get those hot dogs, please tell them I gave them a shout out, all right? Because they came out working hard. And my good friend, I got a message with you. My good friend talked about those aluminum foils and how we eat. Y'all pray over your hot dog downstairs, and we got some aluminum foil down there. My media ministry, where is he? Thank you so much. Give him a hand, y'all. Give him a hand. Thank you. forever faithful. All I gotta do, I can't even get the question out before they say yes. Brown and my good Bob over there, he keeps me halfway cute over there. They did the cooking. Please, thank you guys. Please give them a hand. What can I say about the leader here, Ricky Freeman? Great job, give it to him. I want to thank all of you, all of you, all of you. It's my good thing, and I say in his absence, Reverend Jones, I want to thank him. Ladies, thank y'all for coming. They've already talked about that. Thank y'all so much. Did I miss what Reverend Jones said? Lottie, Dottie, and who? Everybody. Thank you all for showing up. But this time I would love to ask my good friend to come back up. Now he told me I'm gonna be transparent. He said, Brother, I don't want anything. I just want to spread the word. But we love folks down here. We love up on you, right? So we want to, on behalf of Mount Olive Missionary Men's fourth quarter ministry, we would like to present you this small token of love. And thank you so much. That was powerful. And if y'all don't mind me in ministry, I want to work around his schedule. So when he calls me, let's get him back down here with that other part of the presentation you were talking about, if y'all don't mind, okay? So, thank you so much, my friend. He said he didn't want a thing, but he gonna take it. He talking about he gonna leave it on the floor or something. But y'all, I'm gonna put it right here. All right, thanks again. And also, and we're at a great time right now, great segue, I'm gonna bring up now, any questions, comments, concerns, we got about like 5 more minutes before we go downstairs and fall into that. So we're not gonna take a lot of time right now, but I don't want anyone to leave here with any unreadiness. Yes, sir.
I want to challenge. You said he's going to come back again whenever we get it squared away. If everybody in here now, just those that are in here now, will contact 5 folks that you know will show up.
Absolutely.
I ain't talking about those who may show up, that you know will show up. Call them.
Absolutely.
And if we start that process, it'll continue to grow. Just 5 that you know. I called 10, 5 of them showed up.
Absolutely. That's it. That's it. Absolutely. Thank you, Pops. Hold on. His hand was first. Yes, sir.
When you find out when he's coming, could you let me know and I could make an announcement at my church?
I love it.
I just found out this week myself and it was too late for me to get it.
I love it. I love it. I got to give a shout out to, thank you. I'm sorry. But Deacon Linda McNair Moore, yeah, her husband here now, but I'm going to say it. God know that lady has my phone number. You hear me? But I want to thank her and the health. Well, please let her know, because she put something on the radio, on the internet. She knows every preacher this side of heaven, so she put the word out, okay? So we're going to get the word out. We're going to get the word out. Yes, Archie, thank you for that. Archie West. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You might want to start doing something like we women do with the breast cancer awareness month.
Okay.
You don't wait until October to do it. You start announcing it monthly.
My.
We men, every Sunday or every once a month, we men, this is something we must do.
I love
If
it.
we want to survive and be the leader of our family,
I love it.
why, this is what we need for us. And if you have to, tell a wife.
Absolutely.
Invite men, invite the wives. Wives, girlfriend, whoever.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we can be a big influence. No, my husband is gone, but I have 2 sons that I need to influence and remind. This is important.
Thank you. Thank you. So please give everyone who spoke, give them a hand, please. And I heard my good friend here, the women going to get us out there. My wife got me out there. My mom stayed on me. So, yeah, we're hard-headed, but I'm glad we got, soft ears, if you will, okay? With that being said, I'm going to give you the pulpit because you can decide the pulpit. Go ahead, sir.
I want to thank you for inviting me, Brother Norman. 60% of the congregation I lead is African American, and I probably got about 11 men, and they need to have been here, but I did take some good notes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I will share it with them.
Let's exchange contact information.
Yeah.
I apologize. I didn't bring. I'm totally out of the card. I checked you give a card. But Mike can get this.
Very good, very good. Thank you. And, he's a Giants fan, so he's going to forget the things, okay? But with that being said, if anyone else, Pat Hendrick, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Anyone else? With all hearts and minds, that was a great segue. Now I'm going to ask my good friend, Pastor Ray, to come up. Come up here, sir. He's going to give us, he's going to bless our food and just pray about health in our community. And before he takes the mic, there is some information of local doctors, urologists. My good friend said he wasn't a urologist, but I tell you what, he sounds like my urologist. I listen to him. I listen to him. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much. But I have some local doctors here, information. Please grab it. Dr. Dexter Fields gave me this. You know, he's a pharmacist, a member of our church. So that's wealth, spread the wealth, right? But before you get that closing, sir, I want you to come up. Got something for you too, sir. That's for you, sir. Before, come on up here. Look, his church is in Lewiston, Woodville, and I can look out my window and see what's going on at church. And we at Mount Olive, we're an outreach ministry too. And we love to see churches do their thing. It's all about love. He always talks about love, love, love. And I'm going to leave that alone. It's all about love, and he does great things. So the men's ministry will do a small donation to your cause for your church, sir. That's my man right there. So on behalf of Mount Olive Missionary Men's Four-Quarter Ministry, this goes to you and your ministry. Use it. I know you're going to use it for the betterment of this kingdom. I love that appreciation, right? With that being said, I'm going to turn the mic over to him. He's going to bless the food and pray us out of here. And look, thank y'all so much. Not about me. It's about this ministry. Thank y'all, and thank you again. Sir?
I could cry. Thank you. Let's pray. Let's talk to the Father for a minute. Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we love you on this Saturday. We thank you for your divine protection over our lives. How you've moved on this Saturday morning through this presentation. I pray for every man that is in this tabernacle today. I pray, God, that when they leave here, they would go tell other men about prostate cancer and how, God, they can get tested and cured in Jesus' name. That they need to be tested. Lord, that it's not only in our black community, but in our white community. Lord, let us never have fixed impressions. Help us all to love one another. We're in this together. We're going to heaven together. And Lord, we thank you for what is happening here today at this ministry. Lord, I pray that you would bless this food real good to the nourishment of our bodies. Bless this ministry. May it be full tomorrow morning. May there not be an empty pew in this tabernacle. May it not be an empty pew. Fill it up in the name of the Father, the Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. Let us have a great Saturday afternoon. Forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please, with that being said, you can exit, go downstairs, grab the chips, grab the hot dogs, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday.